Good morning, good afternoon, 7:01, call us to order. If we don't really have anything, we'll just go jump right up. Do we want to talk about 39 and 37?
And 38.
Yeah. 38, which is 38,
80.
80 years, all right, so. If you guys, I'm fine with the month, but if you want to wait till we listen to the argument before we vote, we can do that.
So this would be the ADUs where Matt Morong has submitted the amendment to change the maximum lease term, minimum lease term from 12 months to a month. The planning board, from my understanding, feels very strongly on the 12 months, so we'll hear from them on their perspective on that later.
Yeah.
So the board can talk about that now or wait to see.
Do you have a pass, young lady? It's easy, you. Do you have a hall
Press
pass?
pass?
Press
Oh.
pass, yeah. So what, you can do it, I'm fine, I'll listen to it, then we can decide.
I think it's fine to vote on the floor.
Yeah.
What's the attorney general, like, what, isn't the argument, part of the argument that the state law, the ADU state law doesn't have these strictures on it?
They've cautioned that this could be considered an unreasonable regulation.
12 months.
For 12 months, because they would need to understand what the public purpose of it, what the public need for it is. So the planning board could articulate one. But the AG did caution that this could be considered unreasonable. And like I said yesterday, there isn't similar prohibitions or restrictions on other properties in Milton. This would be exclusive to ADUs, and I think that might be one way they look at it to say, why is it reasonable to only apply to these kinds of properties? So,
Yeah,
And are we trying to do too many things with this particular article? I mean, we talked last night about setting something up for Airbnbs. Are we trying to?
oh, not for this one.
No, not for this, but that was.
So this 12 months versus 1 month doesn't have anything to do with that?
No, but 12, that, Scott, go ahead.
No, I think the 1 month, if we feel like, so I think the purpose, honestly, for me, for trying to limit the the Airbnbs is that, we have a housing affordability issue in town. And, we need supply of affordable rentals and, other properties. So Airbnbs effectively take apartments off the market, right? Like, it's not, for me, I don't think that's in alignment with what we're trying to do on a housing front. So I think that's a good reason to, have at the very least like a 1 month restriction. I mean, I personally could go both ways, 1 month or a year. But we also do want to allow flexibility for property owners too.
So there's two big things that to me that play into this that a lot of people don't talk about. One, Power, and the other is Milton Academy. So it's for many years, Milton Academy parents will come and they'll rent for like, 6 months, 8 months, sometimes. I mean, this changes them from someone saying, okay, you rent the house for a year versus, 2 years, and the same with Curry. Curry, they come in particularly on the upper Brushell Road. So I agree, like I hear all sides of this. I'd rather hear to me, I just want to hear the argument because I don't know enough about this to make a decision. That's just my, go ahead.
And if I can, Mr. Chair, so I think, John, to your point, what we were kind of discussing earlier is, I think, a separate article that I think we should think about developing, where we look at what other towns have done around Airbnb type properties and suggesting, like, maybe gathering some ideas and then providing them to the planning board and suggesting that they put together an article that's related to that. I think that would be the right way to do it. But, to set one standard for ADUs that we don't set for others and really kind of ties the hands of people that are gonna, that might want to make these investments and have, a Curry family, or a Milton Academy family in their place for 9 months. Like, if a minimum of a month is like, nobody Airbnbs for.
Gonna do that, right?
Right. So that's kind of what but I do think we should talk at a future meeting about putting something together like that.
On the Airbnb.
If we go to a month, would we even get an official lease, right? Like, let's say I'm renovating my house, my friend has an ADU.
It's up to you. Is the owner?
Yeah.
you can do a lease or not, I mean, tenant or wills exist all over this town, they just do, they're everywhere.
So if we move it to a month, does it really solve an issue? If folks-
It doesn't solve the Airbnb issue, because I think what Nick was saying yesterday was that we don't really have a good enforcement mechanism or standards
For
to-
Airbnb.
for Airbnbs.
And that would be the case no matter what.
This is gonna be, which,
ADU.
this
I
doesn't
think
change.
also
So this is a
that would
different, that's a
struggle with the
different
enforcement.
issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
Because if you Google Airbnbs in Milton now, you'll find them, they're there.
Yeah.
Well, the one on my street.
Yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
listen, you know,
yeah,
So I think not trying to solve Airbnb with ADU
yeah,
and
Yeah.
working on an ADU or working on an Airbnb article for a subsequent town meeting makes sense.
So I think moving it, if someone's coming in for less than 12 months, what's gonna happen is they're just not gonna come to us and like, I'm doing an official lease. Either way.
Yeah, and that's gonna happen, you're gonna learn, there's a lot that goes on in houses, it's not what we know about.
sure.
But I think, Mr. Terry, your
Right.
idea of voting on the floor once. we've
Yeah,
heard the
I just wanna
arguments
hear it,
makes sense.
that'll make it,
Yeah.
I may be fine with it, like, I don't know, and I don't like, at least for me, I don't like making decisions on something I'm not sure. That's,
Do we have any other, across other properties in town, do we have any other leasing bylaws in place?
To my
This is
knowledge, there's
consistent
no
with
other
everything else.
restrictions,
no.
there's no other restrictions out.
So this would be, we don't.
First time.
There's, that's what, when I say to you, it's like, there are so many arrangements out there,
Yeah.
beyond anything we would be able to, know. I'll be able to, right?
I think the biggest fear I hear about the ADUs is that the developer or something would rent it out. Like, no, you know, the primary design, I believe the primary intention is to provide affordable for
Family.
parent
Mother and
or
father,
mother or
yeah.
father or whatever, you know. And I think what I'm hearing is that's the biggest worry, is that it would
And again,
become
I
a
don't-
rental unit, like,
I don't know how we enforce that.
and I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either, but that, I'm just saying, that's the,
People are gonna do under the table stuff under the table regardless. I think
Right.
it's more of the, Johnny law follower is gonna be more concerned if he wants to rent his ADU for 9 months and feels like he can't do it because of the restriction.
Yeah.
Or somebody else maybe, then that's where I think we should be thinking about the Airbnb enforcement.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, like. Passing it and having it, how do you enforce it? Like, how do you?
it's really complicated.
Yeah.
I worked on this
Yeah,
a,
it's-
a long time ago,
it's
it's very
hard.
hard to pull
Yeah,
off.
And I don't see our.
The building
department
staff,
able to
yeah.
Yeah.
Even really
Right.
realistically enforce it
Yeah.
unless there were complaints being made. That it looks like there's a new tenant every month,
Right,
and even then, how are we gonna go catch that? and enforce
Right.
it? So.
and it gets so awkward that nobody really wants to enforce it. I mean, you know what I mean? They'll get in the middle of it.
Cause the lease is really for the protection of the
Yes,
renter.
the rent, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It's not.
okay, we're okay with on the floor, all right,
It's the
lighting.
So we have another edit from Erin,
Today?
today,
Oh,
a few hours.
my
It is.
God.
This afternoon.
Responding to the warrant committee or?
I think to some of Liz
Yeah.
Dillon's concerns around scope.
you're fine.
And I know she has a presentation plan, but the way this will work procedurally is the warrant committee's motion is to refer back. So the body has to first decide whether to refer it back or not. Before there'd be any discussion about the potential amendments to the article itself. So first question is that this board will be asked is, does the select board want to have it just referred back? Or not? And then if the body says not to refer it back, then there'll be a deeper conversation that this board would have to weigh in terms of the merits of each of the amendments.
She's already asked me to ask us not to refer it back.
Yeah.
It was their own vote, I'm like,
We didn't
I
get
can't.
any citizen complaints against it.
I know, no, I know.
Hearing,
I
like,
know.
everybody thinks it's a good idea, so.
I mean, I worry most about the enforcement.
Yeah,
right, and I'd say, it's something, well, the only thing that worries me about it is, because you dip in your toe, it's almost like. You know, whenever you get into people's, and I put this on their, I call this their First Amendment rights, when you're getting into things that they normally view as a freedom of expression. You just, it's tough, but.
And the
And
private
did-
property disagreements that we're able usually to.
Which is what made this happen, which is the whole reason we're here in the first place.
Yeah.
Because it's existing condition.
Like Nick has been dealing with an issue with two neighbors mad at each other about a tree. That
And-
one neighbor is alleging they're not taking care of and is falling on their properties, like that's.
Welcome to Milton.
There's no nexus to town of Milton here, so this has some of the same potential. But it would be up to this board to weigh in and then get involved if it is passed.
I
The other
only
thing-
remember, go ahead.
The other thing that struck me is a lux. A candle. 1 meter away from a candle. I mean, there's gotta be violations of that everywhere. You know,
I mean,
That-
to me, I do, if you would know.
at the property line.
25 mile an hour speed limit, and we went to 25, it's. I think this may serve more as a deterrent than it may wind up being enforced.
Mhm.
Like people become aware of it, and they know what they're doing.
So if you want to enforce it for some particular case, you can, otherwise, if people are driving 30 miles an hour.
I don't know what I mean, the only things that I've ever seen in my career, some of this was many years ago. They tried to pass a bylaw, we're gonna require all citizens to shovel their front sidewalks. And it went down. So many town ordered it went down, and because all the seniors were like, hey, I can't, they were down with heap of smoke, so, but we haven't heard a lot of, you're right.
We haven't heard-
Not heard a lot of, so.
I think we should at least let people discuss it.
Yeah, and then
if we-
I'm okay, let's let them discuss it, and then we're gonna have to vote twice, because we'll have to vote once not to. Well, yeah, not to send it back, and then if it gets to the floor, we'll have to say yes to, so why don't we share that one?
Should we
Mark,
vote
yeah.
now that we wouldn't send it back? Or we just
Yeah, I wanna do that, wanna make
Yeah.
a motion,
I'll make a motion that we do not recommend to send back Article 37 to the select board.
another second,
I'll second it.
second by, all those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Unanimous, okay. But why don't we let Mr. Carl know?
Yeah, I will. Article 39, I did distribute, Marion McKetrick's requested amendment. I haven't had a chance to look at it. Marion is going to the planning board meeting. So I don't think there's much for the board to weigh in. I just wanted to print it and give it to you. And so the planning board would report back on that, and I'm sure Marion would essentially make an amendment on the floor if necessary. So I shared that. And then that's really it for the articles tonight.
What are you doing on now?
Up to the members.
So I
We
have
should be
one-
able to wrap by 9:30.
So I have one issue, or 9:30.
He just jinxed us.
I know.
He said an hour.
I'm saying an hour, 300. the way we're going.
He always gets it too short. Richard has high hopes.
It's the whole Celtics game.
I'm kind of glad that I
43
missed it,
minutes,
to be
40,
honest.
what's it, 45, or 40 missed three?
45.
If they only miss 43, they're won by 12. So I have one, I may have a dilemma for Tuesday night. I have to go to this event at Library College. So if we have to do, could we do maybe a quick on Zoom reorg before Monday, if we could, what we're doing?
For a reorg? Yeah, we can
Yeah.
do that on Monday.
Maybe Monday morning, just quick, would everyone be on Zoom? We don't have to.
And then we still have the standard meeting. on
Then you have a
Tuesday, but
regular
you'll be-
meeting,
yeah, we'll see.
I just, if I come in, I come in, but at least I won't be chairing, I don't have to worry about. Cause right now I'm all alone, there's no off, John's secretary, like, there's no vice chair that if I die in my sleep, you're on your.
Please don't do that.
Someone just grabbed
Yeah, don't look for that.
Design last night.
Is that where you go, die in your sleep? That's where you
Yeah,
In the lottery.
Hey, listen, if you're gonna go, that's the way to go, you
It
don't have
is
to
the
worry
best.
about it,
It is the best.
you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it, I have a
Well,
friend.
It is,
Very
for the one
dark
going,
area.
for the one going.
Well, you haven't tried that anyway.
No, no.
Welcome to the select board. How
Everyone's
would you like
staying
to
alive.
Not on our
Okay.
agenda.
It's not on our.
Everybody say.
Night two, look at the
Let's keep
positivity.
going.
Everybody's together.
Exactly.
I do have some updates on June special town meeting warrant
Oh,
articles.
God, can I
Alright,
put that off?
So did we
We
know,
could.
do a Monday morning, org meeting?
Yeah, I'll do a quick
Does
Monday,
that
is
work
that all
for
right?
folks?
Yeah.
Monday or Friday, either one, see, whatever's easier.
I would just need a time now for Friday, because we'd have to post first thing
I'll worry
tomorrow.
the Monday.
Friday morning's harder. Monday's better for me.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah, as long as it's, before 9:30.
I was gonna say, as long as after
9
9.
o'clock?
No, 9 o'clock.
It won't.
I'm doing the, school committee, finance committee meetings Monday mornings. I try to go to
so 9 o'clock is okay.
8 to 9.
9
That's okay?
o'clock on.
Yeah.
Okay,
On Monday.
I can leave her.
all right, you post,
We'll post
you get that,
it.
Lynn?
Yeah.
This is the
Thank
most important person in the room right here,
Yep.
Lynn?
No, I'm not.
Oh, yes, she is,
Oh,
she'll
yeah.
try to say she's not,
Yeah.
but she'll try to.
Yeah.
She keeps us on track, moving forward all the time.
Somebody has to.
Mhm.
Alright, I have a couple articles for June town meeting. I didn't get to email them out today.
So we'll do that next week.
Just we can.
I'll
look at it.
share them, so I'll share them, give to you, so I just wanted to update on that taxation fund one that I mentioned where. We would be getting approval to have a check off on your tax bills to make a voluntary donation to a committee for. Elderly and disabled taxation fund, those are actually really easy to pull together as a warrant article concept, so this would be a voluntary donation. A committee that is stipulated by the law would have to be set up. That would develop the rules and procedures as to how that money would be distributed. Needham, Hingham, and a few other communities in Dedham have this in place. They find it generates $20,000 to $30,000 a year that they're able to distribute through an application program to elderly and disabled. So for just assistance on property taxes.
Okay.
So I thought it'd be more, the mechanics of it would be more challenging, but they're not. So I'll email these all out and I have hard copies.
I'll take a hard copy. I was like.
So in terms of alcohol on town land, what I wrote this as is saying that all the rules that apply to alcohol on town buildings apply to town land. In addition to that, one-day licenses for them shall only be issued to individual organizations under contract to utilize an entity possessing a caterer's license for alcohol sales.
Just cite the statute, I'd cite the statute.
Okay.
It's a statute,
Sorry, reference.
It's only 131.
Age identifying wristbands shall be provided
I think it's
to
almost
individuals
every
seeking to purchase alcoholic beverages. Applicants shall submit a sketch plan for the use of town land as part of the application to the board. You know, the select board may, depending on the town land, require that alcohol sales and consumption take place only in a location designated on the site plan. So it would be variable depending on the location. And Margaret grabbed me last night and asked to, said, oh, when do you need that bylaw? And I said, now. So I said I would give it to her. So I'll share this version of it, just knowing that it's still a draft, but that's kind of the broad strokes of it for now.
You can tell we're just gonna add this, we're gonna cite the statute.
Okay, and then we'll talk about it more in earnest on
Yeah,
Tuesday.
and just make sure she knows that statute, it has a lot of the stuff that she brought up, the
Yeah,
training and
I'll double
everything.
check that.
I'll tell you another thing too. This is, I thought about this on the night. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea for us to, even though it's private property and they're coming to us for one day, especially Wakefield and use this,
Yeah,
they're coming all the time now. That it wouldn't be a bad
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, but they,
No,
Requiring-
Why,
yeah.
And
for
they, and music festivals and stuff like, no, to utilize the same statute, the same. It makes it a lot easier for us. It just, and it's really safer for them.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason the statute is passed. Through the days of, you know, the CYO organized.
Rolling out a
going
kit,
together,
yeah.
And then going to get, it just makes sense.
All right, I mentioned as well the exemptions.
Yeah,
The potential exemptions one, so I mentioned last night tying some of the exemptions to CPI. Or an annual adjustment that the Department of Revenue would do based on the consumer price index change. So that would be for senior exemptions for the elderly, disabled and veterans.
Mhm.
So going forward, they would be pegged and adjusted annually based on a CPI adjustment that the Department of Revenue announces. So everybody that adopts it statewide has the same adjustment year over year. So that one is all set and ready to go if the board's still open to that. And again, we can more officially vote this on Tuesday. The other half of that is we can take all those exemptions and increase them by a certain percentage. So right now, the exemptions for the elderly, the blinds, veterans, it's been a 3-year average about $80,000. So what you could do is increase those by a set percentage, 50% or 100%. So 100% would double it. So if it's $500 now, it would be $1,000 going forward. The issue would be that because it's an exemption, it does cost the town money. And so we haven't really budgeted for this in any way, and this will get too deep into municipal finance for just the purposes right now. It comes out of the overlay, which has funding in it, but it doesn't necessarily have sufficient funding in it to support this. So
and we need to do this before the end of the fiscal year?
for it to be available
For the
for
next,
yeah, so we can do the CPI one is a small annual increase, and I think that makes sense because even Prop 2.5 goes up. So that one is easy. We'll do a little bit more research and sketch out potential cost of increasing the exemptions by this percentages and those variable amounts for Tuesday night. But it may still be worth doing. It looks like it might be an additional $80,000, which, if we feel comfortable with what is set aside in the quote unquote overlay, we should be in okay shape to offer that if the board is interested in it. The variable being, maybe seniors who knew it was $500, didn't apply for it. There's a lot more attention to it, plus an override. Maybe it's more expensive than we anticipate. So we'd want to build in a little bit more cushion on that. So I don't have a clear answer on that now, but I just wanted to flag that it looks like about an $80,000 cost item that we didn't necessarily budget for. And I can report back in more detail on Tuesday.
Okay.
And then the last one was the one on the permits, which we talked about, which we'll include. So that's the treasurer was looking at what would make sense in terms of non-payment of taxes. She felt 12 months was actually too long and too generous. So I gotta follow up with Joanna and we'll go from there. And like I said, there's a handful of properties that we ever find ourselves in this position with. But I'll chat with her and report back on Tuesday.
Repeat offenders or?
No, it's usually one-offs.
Okay.
The big one is the one I've emailed the board about, the Irwins, who have a rental property on 7 Fairfax. It's over $600,000 that is owed to the town right now on property taxes, water bills, sewer bills. So it's going through the foreclosure process now, where the town is moving to foreclose.
So we would foreclose and take the property in lieu of taxes.
We would take the property, sell it, take our portion of what's owed. If they chose to sell, they could sell it or pay the taxes and the process would stop immediately. If they make payment, it halts. If they continue to not make payment, ultimately the court foreclose on it and give the title to the tenant. It rarely happens, especially in something where it's an investment property, rental property. They would likely come up with alternative options.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Yep, a second.
Second.
Second is Brian, we're adjourned to town meeting. Thank you very much. Second easiest.
Pretty good.
Three, two, one.